All right. Hey, good morning, YouTube. How's everybody doing this morning? Hump Day Wednesday. Hope everybody got here unscathed. Look, from the Wednesday, there's your weather snapshot. Lots of big storms still running around out there, it looks like. I don't know what that is over Canada. What province is Toronto in? Quebec? No, it's Montreal's in Quebec, right? Oh, well enough. Anyway, they're getting lots of rain. You can see the storms scattered out all through, and Seattle it's raining. Go figure. Water probably. It's good. It's going to grow all those trees and everything else. We get a little rain here. We had a little bit of brush fire spark up yesterday right on the side of the hill here above Carson City. It looked like it was died down. I didn't see any smoke this morning, but it usually dies down at night, and it'll pick back up this morning when the winds pick up. So we could use some rain to help prevent a little bit of those brush fires picking up. Speak of the devil. Hey, Barry, what's up? Cloudy right now? That rain's got to be coming at you. Hey, Daniel, good morning. How's it going? Cleaning brass. Cleaning brass is always a good option. I got plenty of clean brass. I need to put some bullets in them. I've been slacking. I need to get my 5.56 count up. Slacking is the only way to describe that. So moving on, it was election day for a lot of places yesterday. We had our primaries here. Nothing of note, but tying into that, I guess the plan to split up California has made the ballot for November. I guess they got all their approved signatures and everything documented yesterday. So with all this madness, the state of Jefferson needs to get moving because they're going to get sucked into this mess. So as it goes on down here, like how they described this, California's 168-year run as a single entity. It's funny to put it that way. So it could split. Is it going to be on the ballot for November 6th? All it requires is a majority to cast the ballots agree. Along a continuous process will begin to separate into 3 states. And they don't have the map. There's the map of the 3-state plan, the 3-state solution. We hear the 2-state solution so often. They're calling this a 3-state, which is, I'm telling you, I think these are all distractions. I think it's to prevent Jefferson from getting any movement. Over the years, over the last decade, Jefferson has really gotten a lot of movement. When you look up all the counties north of Sacramento, like 15 of these counties have voted in a proposal at the county level, in the county, voted to form the state of Jefferson. And that's pretty much everywhere north of Sacramento. But in this plan, it obviously tucks in San Francisco and Sacramento with Jefferson, which they don't want. That's part of the reason they're getting out of there. But these plans are just to give big cities still have control over rural areas. I'm not fooled, at least in my mind. When you get these Eastern Sierra counties, they don't want anything to do with San Diego. Like, seriously? But that's on the ballot for the Californians out there. I think you'd want to pay attention to how that plays out in the long run. But there's lots enough madness going on out there to want to do something I can understand. So a lot of this proposal is based upon economic stability numbers. They state here that based upon the way they've broken this down, that the three states would have reasonably similar household incomes, which your income doesn't matter if your inflation's so high you can't keep up, and enough industries to produce their own viable economies. Because of course he knows best, this Draper fella. So that's their argument. So the signatures required were 402,468 are required to be valid. And it's always interesting, these propositions like this on a off cycle year when it's not a presidential election, when usually voter turnout is lower in a non-presidential year. These measures like this, proposals, referendums, whatever you want to call them, usually can get fairly successful because the people that are really invested in it, support it, show up to vote, get motivated, while everybody else is like, you know, I'm not going to show up. It's not a presidential election year. And there's still another proposal out there for the California secession movement to be on the ballot for 2020. To go all in, want to push that one up to 2018. Let's get that one on the ballot now. By all means, California, go ahead. So that's in your links below. Go check out. Yeah, Barry, we talked about that water restriction last week or 2 weeks ago, was it? It's more so a government resolution that works towards that goal of 55 gallons a day. And we talked about that quite a bit as far as how that compares to what's going on in Cape Town, South Africa. And that's where they were at the most urgent need of their water restriction. That was their last measure before further rationing. But it wasn't a binding law. If you read the restriction, it gives the opportunity to water conservation districts, the people who control the water, I guess you'd say. It gives them the option to impose some of that stuff. It was kind of laughable because do you think the people in Malibu are going to stop watering their lawns, stuff like that? It's one of those typical feel-good measures that hurts a lot of people because they get dropped the hammer on, but then you're going to have people in Beverly Hills watering their lawns, a couple hundred gallons a day or something. So, it'll be hit and miss, see how that gets implemented and whatnot, but it's more of it gives more discretion to the water conservation people in the water districts to impose restrictions. When we looked into it, that when we were reading through that, but still concerning because really, if they just cut out LA, if LA just were the ones that were on restrictions, the ones that have been stealing everybody's water for all these years, the issues be a lot less. I'm sure the farmers in the Fresno Valley would be a little happier with that. Hey, Walter, good morning. How's it going? Out your way. So that's a situation with California splitting up or Cal exit is another proposition, whichever one. Moving on, your government continues to get more money and waste more money. So I think in April we talked about this record collections once again. Once again in May through May, record collections on individual income tax, and the deficit's still $500 billion. So the federal government collected a record 1.143. So it'd be 1,143,141,000,000 in individual income taxes through the first 8 months of fiscal year 18. Records. Despite the record individual income tax collections, the federal government still ran a deficit, 532 billion over that same period. So these are all marks for annual tax collections in the through the May time period. So each of these is how many taxes were collected each of these years through the first 8 months, which is October to May. So that's the example bar graph you see here. I don't know if that'll blow up a little bit. That's a little bit clearer, right? This is all years annual, and this is obviously we're here. We talked about these records here. There were records, and the government's still wasting all your money. The debt will not come down, but we give them more. Although the federal government collected record individual income taxes in the first 8 months, overall collections were down from the first 8 months of fiscal 15, 16, and 17. This statement doesn't make any sense compared to this. I don't understand what they're trying to say. Oh, it's comparing overall federal tax, not including this is only individual income tax. So all your other tax collections of whatever other various nefarious things they have out there collecting taxes. Overall tax collections are down compared to 15, 16, and 17. In the first 8 months of 16, the Treasury collected a record 2,240,406,590,000 in total taxes. So that's total all other tax resources, not just income tax. So double. The U.S. government collects double what they collect in income tax from other sources. Corporation income tax collections have also declined in the first 8 months of 18. So in the first 8 months of 2018, the Treasury collected 123,707,000,000 in corporate income tax. That's 46 billion less than the collected in 2017. So I'm sure they'll complain about that. So despite the record individual income tax that the Treasury collected the first 8 months of the fiscal year, the federal government still ran a deficit of 532 billion $241 million during that period. That's because while it collected those taxes, the federal government spent $2,756,000,000,000. Great. And we wonder why this never changes. So that's a CNS news link down in your description box. This is another breakdown of cumulative receipts, outlays, and surplus deficit through fiscal year 2018. Yay. Something to check out just for your displeasure in reading about that. Nobody would enjoy that, I don't think. But continuing on that note, over to the Fed is hiking rates today. Today is the day. They said they were going to let inflation run last month. Now they said they're going to continue hiking rates this month, which is completely contradictory. But anyway, so they're expected to announce that quarter-point interest rate hike when it wraps up the meeting this afternoon. So there's a couple else things they say here we need to know out of this. Let's see what they say. The Fed could up its economic and inflation forecasts. They could also announce that the Fed chair will hold press briefings after every meeting, which the market sees as hawkish since it gives the Fed more opportunity to hike rates. So there should be an economic forecast coming out. We talked about last week how inflation was outpacing projections, and the inflation had been running at 2.5% when the Fed's stated goal was 2% for all these years. But the Fed still last month said they wanted to let inflation run. So it's all about optimism and how the Fed sounds, not what they actually say in these statements. They never outright and say things half the time. It's always clouded and veiled threats or veiled opinions, it seems like. GDP growth forecasts. They'll have an unemployment forecast. So it's something to look forward to see what happens out of that, especially if you're concerned about interest rates. If you're looking to get a loan of some sort or something. So the final statement here. We believe the 25 basis point hike in the target range will be implemented by increasing the IOER. Oh, goodness, such an acronym. I don't know what it means. Increasing the IOER rate by 20 basis points, thereby encouraging the effective Fed funds rate to trade closer to the middle of the 1.75 to 2% range, wrote J.P. Morgan chief economist Mike Ferroli. So there you go. Something to think about. Hey, Walter, yeah, giving somebody the option of wrecking somebody's day over some fat cat watering their lawn, that could be comedic relief right there. Pay tickets for it even. Raise some money. Hey, Daniel, gotcha. Still present and accounted for. So your ominous news of New World Order of the day is also from CNBC, as they have a host for the 2026 World Cup, and it's North America. So whereas in the past it's always been countries that hosted the World Cup, in 2026 it's going to be North America, with the U.S., Mexico, and Canada conglomerating together to host the games. So if that's not your sign of the apocalypse or New World Order or whatever you want to call it, I don't know what else is. It's never happened. Like, regions don't put in to host the Olympics or host the World Cup. It's always individual countries. That's always been the tradition, right? Um, the U.S. hosted the World Cup of what, 1994. Mexico, I think, has hosted it before. Mexico's hosted the Olympics by themselves. But now we're going to do this one big North America thing just because that's the agenda. Is there any other reason that it would go like this? Um, so that's ominous if you continue to look at how the New World Order is proposed to go forward. You have NAFTA and all those things, and now a North America World Cup host location, which you got to figure by 2026, we all got to have free travel between all three of the countries, right? No more passports, no more borders, etc. Is that not the agenda? So FIFA voters overwhelmingly adopted for the financial and logistical certainty of a United States-led bid over a risky Moroccan proposal for the first 48-team tournament. So the tournament will be larger as well, it looks like. Russia is hosting it this year, which I think it gets started pretty soon, doesn't it? The U.S. didn't make the World Cup this year, so nobody here cares. We suck at soccer, and nobody cares. So it looks like there'll be 60 games of the 80 played in the U.S. and 10 games played in Canada and 10 games played in Mexico during those games. So it's essentially a U.S. World Cup, but Canada and Mexico participating, I guess you'd say. They'll probably have some of the early preliminary games. Biggest stumbling point they say here was Morocco was too hazardous as a potential host because of the 14 locations. Each of them had to be built or innovated as a part of $16 billion in investment, whereas in the U.S. plan, that already exists. So it's all about the profit. And they're proposing that the World Cup finals be in New York at MetLife Stadium. But more concerning is that this will be seen as a North American games. Again, the consolidation of countries and elimination of borders. Is that not what's going on? Take it for what it's worth. Hey, Practical Outdoors, good morning. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. How are things out your way? So that's really the top things I picked up today. Obviously, the big summit in Singapore is taking up a lot of the bandwidth in the news. I commented on that yesterday. You can see that video on the YouTube. But underlying stuff still going on. Worth checking out. Go see what's shaking in your area. Like I was saying, we had the primaries here last night. Some good, some bad. Local stuff is always more important. Some of the local races went well, I would say. Some of them, I'd rather it didn't go that way. Haven't seen much news out of Hawaii lately. I know the volcano was still going, and there was still gas warnings, and there was the one story that just popped up. Was that yesterday? Where the lava had made it to one of the freshwater lakes on the Big Island, and it evaporated the whole lake in a matter of minutes, or like an hour and a half. There it is. Yeah, that if you didn't see that, that's a pretty crazy statement. People are still covering it. They got webcams on it. So here is that. Let me open this link. We'll get this into your box below. But it boiled away an entire 200-foot deep lake in just 90 minutes with all the associated steam and whatnot. That is fairly insane. It was one of the legendary lakes where, like, by Hawaiian legend, that Pele had bathed in, and it had all this, lore behind it and everything else, and it's gone. Talk about changing the landscape, and it's still not done. So that's pretty impressive. I guess it hit last week, so it actually did the damage. It's called Green Lake. Here they got an update here. 600 homes destroyed. It's on the 41st day of the eruption. There's a video in here if you want to click through for that. So that was a pretty impressive story when the whole lake is gone now. I guess it could fill up over time, but how long is it going to take to fill up a lake? I guess in Hawaii it may not take that long with but it also, with all the lava going in there, it might definitely change the structure of that lake in the future if it ever does refill. Lots of impacts from this thing that are yet to be seen. But that's some more amazing stuff. Taking away a lake. So update from Hawaii on that. Digger Outdoors. You out here? You in here, Digger? Digger was talking about going to the Jeep run last week, and there's a channel I was going to hit him up with. There's a channel I follow called JTM Off-Road that was at his Jeep Fest last week and had a video about. I was going to see if he knew about it or he could go check it out. It was at Butler, Pennsylvania. They call it the Bantam Jeep Invasion. They did a video on that. Looks like a good time, Digger. Hopefully you got to go. Um, if he checks in with us, I'll put the link below and he can go check out the channel when he gets a chance. If he does see this. If not, y'all can enjoy some nice Jeeps running around. Anytime. Broken axles and everything else. Yeah, now it's dry lake, right, Daniel? Yeah, that's fairly apparent that it's, at least for a while, it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up in the future. Watch some Jeeps roll around. As this will get you through Hump Day. Watching a lot of fun and with the Jeeps and whatnot. Anybody else got anything going on out in their area that stop running your mouth to see some Jeeps? Goodness, had to skip forward. And the deuce and a half. That's always. This looks like about every weekend out here in Nevada. You see the different Jeep clubs getting out and going out in the mountains and stuff. Whoa, that's nice. Check that out. There you go. Yeah, Walter, if I if they ever come out with another Jeep based, Wrangler based pickup, which they've been talking about for next year, and they've been talking about it for the last 5 years, that'll probably be the last vehicle I ever buy, at least new, or want to buy, I guess I should say. You could always be forced to get something just based upon wrecking or something like that. But if they ever come out with a new Comanche or whatever they're going to call Scrambler or something, a new pickup base model, that'll be the last thing I get. So they look like I got Jeeps from all around, for sure. A 67, Walter. Did you just get rid of it, or did it meet its demise through time and effort? Just did it in? There's a classic for you. Something. There you go. There it is. Yeah, the good thing about Wranglers, if you've seen one, you've not seen them all. One is as different from the other as people are. There's a nice pickup. There you go. Hey, Smoking Locust. Good morning. What's going on? What is a 4BT? Um, I'm not sure what the BT stand. Are you talking about just the in? What's a 4BT? All right, Daniel, get out and get that garden done. We're gonna get out of here as soon as this. I think this is wrapped up. He's just talking about himself, and that's him talking about how much fun he had. Yeah, this is JTM Off Road. There, if you check in with this digger, I put the link below if you want to go check it out. Anybody want to check out the Jeeps? It's in the Oh, a diesel. Oh, the diesel engine. Yeah, a diesel would be. That's the thing about that pickup. If they make that pickup in a diesel, that would definitely be what I would like to get as well. Which they're talking about making that diesel more available in the newer Jeeps. We'll see how that shakes out. So it looked like a good time. Hopefully, Digger got to go. He hasn't talked about videos. Oh, Walter, you've just bragging now. Had a CJ5, a CJ7 Cherokee. All right. Yeah, a buddy of mine, they had the Grand Cherokee back in the 80s. It was probably like a 78 or something. I mean, I was just a kid, but they had it in the 80s and it was always impressive. It was like, like the first SUV really, you know. All right, folks. Hope everybody has a good day. Thanks for checking in. Get out there and have a good day. Doing what you do. We will see you Friday. Talk to you later. Live free.